Reclaiming India's Hindu Heritage. Sambhal Discoveries Leading the Way. Written by Rethi Agnihotri. Sambhal's discoveries of sacred wells, idols, and temples drive efforts to reclaim India's cultural identity, fostering pride in a heritage systematically eroded by invasions and colonial narratives. India's civilizational journey has been shaped by a painful history of invasions, cultural appropriations, and over 200 years of systematic denigration under British colonial rule. Its Hindu heritage suffered extensive destruction under Islamic invaders, and the British further undermined India's cultural self-confidence by promoting colonial narratives that portrayed its indigenous traditions as backward and inferior. Following India's independence from the British in 1947, the Nehruvian era ushered in a brand of secularism that equated modernity with rejecting India's rich Vedic past. This era saw the rise of minority appeasement politics, systematically obstructing efforts to reclaim India's Hindu heritage. During this time, academia and media were dominated by a leftist cabal that omitted or whitewashed evidence of temple destruction by Muslim invaders. These historians wielded significant influence over academia and politics, distorting India's ancient and medieval history with fabricated narratives. Many of these falsehoods persist, often cited by left-liberal voices to discredit Hindu claims for reclaiming sacred sites where temples were demolished and mosques erected. Key narratives promoted include: the destruction of Hindu temples by Islamic invaders was driven by political motives, not hatred for idol worship, focusing on seizing power and temple wealth. Hindu kings also destroyed many Buddhist and Jain monasteries and temples. Many Hindu temples remained untouched during Aurangzeb's reign, and new ones were built, allegedly proving that the Mughals preserved Hindu heritage. The claims propagated by leftist historians regarding the destruction of Hindu temples have been rigorously challenged and academically debunked in the series Hindu Temples: What Happened to Them?, compiled and edited by the eminent historian Sita Ram Goel. This series, based on meticulous research, documents the widespread demolition of Hindu temples by Islamic invaders across India. Drawing on numerous historical sources, including Islamic historical and literary accounts, the series systematically refutes the narratives advanced by Marxist historians and presents a factual portrayal of these events. Goel underscores the systematic neglect of this subject despite the existence of a wealth of evidence. What was it that really happened to thousands upon thousands of temples and monasteries? Why did they disappear or give place to another type of monuments? How come that their architectural and sculptural fragments got built into the foundations and floors and walls and domes of the edifices which replaced them? These are crucial questions which should have been asked by students of medieval Indian history. But no historian worth his name has raised these questions squarely, not to speak of finding adequate answers to them. No systematic study of the subject has been made so far. All that we have are stray references to the demolition of a few Hindu temples, made by the more daring Hindu historians while discussing the religious policy of this or that sultan. While exact figures on the total number of temples destroyed across India remain elusive, Hindu temples, What Happened to Them provides region-specific accounts of this devastation. For instance, Mahmud of Ghazni is documented to have looted and burned 1,000 temples in Mathura and 10,000 in Kannauj and its surrounding areas. His successor, Ibrahim, reportedly demolished 1,000 temples in Hindustan, Gangayamna Doab, and Malwa. Muhammad Ghuri is said to have destroyed 1,000 temples in Varanasi. Adil Shah of Bijapur is recorded as having demolished 200 to 300 temples in Karnataka. Qutbuddin Aibak used elephants to raise 1,000 temples in Delhi. A Sufi named K.M. Shah destroyed 12 temples in Tiruchirappalli. These accounts represent only a fraction of the widespread destruction. The full scale of the onslaught on Hindu temples and the broader Hindu civilization remains incalculable. Numerous Islamic monuments across India, many possibly built atop the ruins of Hindu temples, are still celebrated today as symbols of India's cultural heritage. In recent years, a significant shift has occurred in the Hindu community's response to the systematic erosion of its heritage. A cultural and Dharmic awakening has spurred a movement to reclaim abandoned and desecrated temples across India. Hindu advocacy groups and organizations have intensified efforts to uncover neglected narratives and reclaim sacred spaces through constitutional and legal means. The reclamation of temples in Sambhal, Uttar Pradesh, represents a pivotal milestone in this movement. Historically, numerous Hindu temples have been converted into mosques, but Sambhal stands out as a site of organized resistance to such cultural erasure. For the first time in independent India's history, abandoned temples are being systematically unearthed, reclaimed, and preserved. Sambhal, recognized as a Kalki Tirth, a sacred site associated with the reverence of Kalki, is emerging as a symbol of India's determination to restore its Hindu heritage and cultural identity. Rediscovery of ancient temples and artifacts. A remarkable Dharmic resurgence is underway in Sambhal, marked by the rediscovery of multiple temples, ancient wells, coops, and artifacts tied to the city's Hindu heritage. These efforts, led by the local Hindu community with support from the administration, aim to restore and preserve Sambhal's historical and cultural legacy, long overshadowed by neglect and communal tensions. In December 2024, the Archaeological Survey of India, ESI, undertook a comprehensive survey of 5 pilgrimage sites and 19 coops, wells, as well as the recently rediscovered Kartik Mahadev Temple. This temple, also known as the Bhasma Shankar Temple, housed a Shivalinga and a Murthy of Bhagwan Hanuman but had remained closed since 1978. The closure followed violent communal riots in Sambhal, which resulted in the deaths of numerous Hindus and the displacement of many others. During the survey, the ASI unearthed several damaged idols from the temple's well, as reported by various media outlets. Located in the Kagu Sarai locality, the temple is only a kilometer from the city's Shahi Jama Masjid, where a recent court-ordered survey led to violent confrontations. The exact age of the Sri Kartik Mahadev Temple remains undetermined, but restoration efforts are already underway. Devotees from Sambhal and nearby areas have begun visiting the site, signaling a revival of its spiritual significance. During the Swami Vivekananda Janjagran Yatra, organized on National Youth Day in honor of Swami Vivekananda's birth anniversary, saints performed puja rituals at the temple. Speaking at the event, they highlighted the need for harmony and called on the Muslim community to support the restoration of sites with clear archaeological evidence of ancient Hindu temples. An abandoned Radha Krishna temple was rediscovered in Sambhal's Muslim-majority Sarai Taran locality. The temple, reopened by the local authorities on December 17, 2024, had once been a vital center of the Hindu faith, but was abandoned when Hindu families in the area migrated away. The administration found murthis of Shiva, Radha, and Hanuman inside the temple. A cleaning and restoration drive was subsequently launched at the temple premises. In December 2024, the ESI also conducted a survey of the Kalki Vishnu Temple in Sambhal. The temple priest claimed that a Krish Koop, well, existed inside the temple premises. The well was closed, and it had no water in it. According to media reports, he stated that it is an important site referenced in the Skanda Purana, alongside other notable pilgrimage sites in Sambhal. Reclaiming encroached temple lands in Sambhal. The administration in Sambhal has initiated a proactive campaign to remove illegal encroachments from lands where ancient Hindu temples once stood. Among the significant actions taken was the demolition of unauthorized structures on the site of the Sati Math Temple. This action followed a complaint alleging that the temple land had been occupied by a land mafia. An official inspection confirmed that the site had been converted into residential plots. The temple, dedicated to Devi Sati, ceased to exist following the 1978 communal riots, during which the local Hindu community fled the area. Since then, the land had reportedly become a target for encroachment by land mafias. Instances of illegal encroachments on temple lands are widespread across India. In many cases, members of the Muslim community have been implicated in such activities. Despite this, punitive actions by local administrations, such as the demolition of illegal structures on temple lands, are frequently portrayed by the left liberal ecosystem as draconian and oppressive. This narrative conveniently ignores the broader context, in which such encroachments are often seen as part of a deliberate effort to erase remnants of Hindu culture and civilization. Notably, many Hindu sites being reclaimed in Sambhal are located in areas predominantly inhabited by the Muslim community. Media reports corroborate that several temples currently under survey were abandoned after the 1978 riots, following the mass migration of Hindus from these areas. Ignoring the communal dimension of such encroachments raises questions about the objectivity of these portrayals. Court-ordered survey of the Shahi Jama Masjid. In January 2024, the findings from a court-ordered survey of the Shahi Jama Masjid in Sambhal were submitted to the local court. Although the report has not been made publicly available, media reports provide significant insights into its findings, suggesting evidence of a Hindu religious structure at the site. The survey, conducted on November 19th and November 24th, included comprehensive videographic documentation of the mosque's premises. Approximately 90 minutes of videography was conducted on the first day, followed by an additional 3 hours on the second day. The findings revealed several notable features within the mosque's exterior and interior, as detailed in media reports. A banyan tree was identified within the mosque premises. A well was discovered, partially located inside and outside the mosque premises. The outer portion of the well was found to be covered. 50 floral motifs, symbols, and artifacts were uncovered within the mosque premises. A large chandelier hanging from the main dome was observed, secured by chains resembling those commonly associated with temple bells. Evidence of alterations to the mosque's domes suggested modifications to the original structure. New construction was observed inside the mosque, including a triangular structure that had been recently painted and plastered. Several media reports indicate that the court-ordered survey provides substantial evidence suggesting the prior existence of a Hindu temple at the site. For instance, the presence of banyan trees within the mosque premises, commonly associated with Hindu temples and puja rituals, warrants further investigation. Additionally, the discovery of numerous Hindu symbols and motifs, coupled with evidence of structural alterations and recent additions, strengthens the claim of a pre-existing temple at the location. The rediscovery and reclamation of Hindu temples and sacred sites in Sambhal have been occurring with remarkable frequency, making it challenging to quantify the total number. This resurgence can be likened to a samudra manthan, a churning process in which the Hindu community of Sambhal plays a pivotal role in reclaiming and reviving India's Hindu heritage. The local authorities have been actively involved in locating abandoned temple sites and removing illegal encroachments, while the community has contributed significantly by visiting reopened temples, organizing pujas, and raising awareness about Sambhal's rich Hindu heritage. In many cases, official actions have been prompted by complaints filed by local residents, highlighting the proactive role of the Hindu community in driving this movement. Sambhal's resurgence has inspired similar reclamation efforts across the state of Uttar Pradesh. In Firozabad, a Shiva temple closed for 35 years in a Muslim-majority locality was recently reopened with the support of Hindu advocacy groups who performed a Hanuman Chalisa path at the site. Similarly, in Varanasi, a long-neglected Shiva temple in a predominantly Muslim area has been rediscovered, with efforts underway to restore and reopen it. In Aligarh, at least 2 abandoned temples have been identified in Muslim-majority areas, further illustrating the widespread impact of this cultural revival across the region. A Hindu pilgrimage site in the making. The recent discoveries of ancient Hindu heritage in Sambhal carry profound Dharmic significance. Sambhal is traditionally believed to be the birthplace of Bhagwan Vishnu's final avatar, Kalki, who, according to Hindu scriptures, will herald the end of the Kali Yuga and usher in the Satya Yuga. Hindu philosophy conceptualizes time as cyclical, progressing through 4 epochs: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Unlike linear notions of time, Hindu cosmology envisions an eternal cycle of creation, preservation, and dissolution, with these yugas repeating endlessly. In this cyclical worldview, Bhagwan Vishnu manifests in various avatars to restore Dharma and cosmic balance during each yuga. While the Krishna avatar appeared in the Dvapara Yuga and the Ram avatar in the Treta Yuga, the Kalki avatar is prophesied to appear at the end of the Kali Yuga. Sambhal holds unique importance in Hindu belief as the only pilgrimage site associated with a future avatar. The ongoing discovery of ancient pilgrimage sites, wells, and artifacts in Sambhal underscores the region's religious and historical significance. Efforts are being made to study these sites and relics in light of their mentions in the Puranas, particularly concerning the Kalki avatar. The Srimad Bhagavata Purana, 12th Skand, provides detailed references to the Kalki avatar. According to these scriptures, Bhagwan Kalki, the 10th incarnation of Vishnu, will be born into a Brahmin family in Sambhal. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath recently highlighted this scriptural significance, noting that Hindu texts written over 5,000 years ago, including the Bhagavad Gita and other Shastras, identify Sambhal as the birthplace of Kalki. He also criticized the historical attempts to erase Sambhal's Sanatan Dharma heritage, stating, "Everything is pre-decided for Sambhal. They Islamized Sambhal, destroyed our signs of Sanatan Dharma, wells, and everything sacred to us." The rediscovery of ancient wells and stepwells in Sambhal has sparked discussions about their connection to Kalki and their symbolic significance. Local authorities are working to restore 68 pilgrimage sites and 19 ancient wells identified in the area. One notable site is the Mridyakoop, Death Well, approximately 280 meters from the Shahi Jama Masjid. According to references in the Skanda Purana, bathing in this well is said to please Bhagwan Shiva and grant extraordinary divine powers. Efforts are ongoing to locate and study these 19 wells and 68 pilgrimage sites mentioned in Hindu scriptures. Historians and researchers have long claimed that the Shahi Jama Masjid of Sambhal was constructed over the remains of a Hindu temple believed to mark the birthplace of Kalki. According to media reports, historian Meenakshi Jain asserted that Mir Beg, a general under Mughal Emperor Babur, demolished the temple to build the mosque. Jain emphasized that remnants of the original temple were used in the mosque's construction, a pattern observed in numerous other sites. She further noted that the temple was deliberately destroyed on Babur's orders due to its association with the Kalki avatar's prophesied birthplace, as per Hindu beliefs. In February 2024, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone for the Kalki Dam Temple in Sambhal. Spanning over 5 acres, the temple will feature 10 garbhagrias, sanctum sanctorum, each dedicated to one of Bhagwan Vishnu's 10 avatars. Construction is expected to be completed within 5 years and will further establish Sambhal as a prominent pilgrimage center for Hindus. Reinvestigation of 1978 Sambhal riots. The renewed focus on Sambhal's Hindu heritage has brought the long-neglected 1978 Sambhal riots back into public discourse. These riots, largely overlooked by the mainstream media of the time, had remained buried in historical obscurity. However, with a spotlight now on Sambhal due to events following the court-ordered survey of the Shahi Jama Masjid in November 2024, the riots are being revisited in both media and civil society discussions. A series of investigative reports by Op India has shed light on the sheer brutality of the 1978 anti-Hindu riots, which drastically altered the demographics of the area. One such report recounts the harrowing murder of prominent businessman Banwari Lal Goyal during the violence. Goyal's murder was marked by extreme brutality. His hands, feet, and throat were reportedly cut off before his body was set ablaze. In an interview with Op India, Goyal's son, Vineet Goyal, revealed that their family's ordeal extended long after the riots, as the case was closed in 2010 due to a lack of witnesses. He also alleged political pressure to ensure the perpetrators were not held accountable. The desecration and abandonment of Sambhal's Hindu heritage are closely tied to the 1978 riots. The violence forced many Hindus to flee certain areas, leaving temples abandoned or encroached upon. For decades, fear prevented the Hindu community from taking the initiative to reopen these temples. However, the ongoing resurgence of Hindu civilizational and cultural identity in Sambhal has instilled hope and courage in the community. This renewed confidence has also led to growing calls for justice for the victims of the riots. The Uttar Pradesh government has ordered a fresh investigation into the 1978 riots. Official statistics initially recorded only 24 casualties, but locals claim the actual death toll was significantly higher. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has publicly stated that 184 people were killed during the riots, and many families were forced to migrate to other areas. In a recent development seen as a major victory for the displaced Hindu community of Sambhal, 3 Hindu families who were forced to leave during the riots have regained possession of part of their ancestral land. These families had reportedly faced years of threats and intimidation whenever they attempted to reclaim their property. Following new complaints supported by valid ownership records, the administration took swift action to restore their rights. The revival of Sambhal's cultural and civilizational heritage has reopened a forgotten chapter in the city's history. Alongside the reinvestigation of the riots, this resurgence has empowered displaced Hindu families to seek legal remedies and demand justice for the atrocities committed against them in 1978. Rising prominence of Hindu issues in Indian politics. The ongoing Hindu resurgence in Sambhal reflects a significant shift in Indian politics, where issues central to the Hindu community are gaining prominence. Political parties are increasingly finding it untenable to engage in minority appeasement politics without addressing Hindu concerns. As Hindus consolidate as a unified vote bank, their demands are becoming a focal point in electoral strategies. Stop Hindudvesha.org pointed out in an earlier article how the state control of Hindu temples became a decisive election issue in Uttarakhand in 2021. In response to public pressure, the ruling BJP government scrapped the contentious Devasthanam Board Act, which had placed 51 temples, including revered shrines like Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, and Yamunotri, under state control. This decision was made with the upcoming March 2022 assembly elections in mind. Similarly, the revival of Sambhal's Hindu heritage is poised to influence the trajectory of Hindu issues in Indian politics. While the local administration has actively supported heritage restoration efforts, the Hindu community has demanded accountability and driven these initiatives. The momentum created by the Sambhal phenomenon is catalyzing the reclamation of Hindu temples and cultural sites across India. This shift is accompanied by heightened awareness among Hindus and a growing sense of pride in their cultural legacy. Social media has played a pivotal role in shaping public opinion on Hindu issues, often setting the narrative before the mainstream media takes notice. Consequently, Hindu concerns are gaining unprecedented attention in the political landscape, signaling a new era of cultural and political consolidation for the community. Wrapping up, the ongoing Hindu resurgence in Sambhal underscores a transformative moment in India's journey toward reclaiming its ancient Hindu heritage. For decades, the narrative of secularism has often hindered efforts to address historical wrongs. However, with increased awareness of their issues and the emergence of alternative perspectives challenging the Marxist-dominated interpretations of Indian history, Hindus are now more assertive in seeking justice. Crucially, these actions remain firmly within the Constitution's framework. The community has adopted legal and institutional pathways to address grievances and restore its cultural and religious heritage. In doing so, Hindus are exercising their fundamental rights under Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, which guarantees the freedom to practice, propagate, and preserve one's religion. For a long time, the politics of minority appeasement and a misinterpretation of secularism fostered the notion that Hindus, as the majority, were less entitled to fundamental religious freedoms. This perception is now being dismantled. The resurgence in Sambhal exemplifies how constitutional mechanisms can be effectively utilized to challenge these historical biases and reaffirm the rights of the Hindu community to safeguard its heritage and identity.